Have you noticed how quiet the crypto market feels right now? Maybe a little too quiet. Well, we're going to unpack an analysis that argues this is just the calm before a massive storm. We're going to look at everything from a huge kind of subtle policy shift at the Fed all the way to a looming tech threat that could change, well, everything. So let's get right into it.
So this is really the big question, isn't it? The core argument we're exploring is that the market is coiled up and ready for some serious volatility. That is a pretty bold claim for sure. So let's dig into the evidence they're using to back it up.
All right, here's our roadmap. First up, we're going to talk about a massive policy change from the Fed that's kind of flying under the radar. Then we'll see how that connects to some pretty wild predictions for Bitcoin's price. After that, we'll zoom out and see what's going on with other coins like Ripple, and even get a little sci-fi with a huge technological challenge on the horizon. And finally, we'll put it all together and see what it all means. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of this entire argument. It's all about a quiet but massive shift in policy from the U.S. Federal Reserve. So here's the main idea. For a while, the Fed was, tightening its belt, trying to shrink its balance sheet. But now, that's over. They've pivoted and are back to buying up assets. Now, they're calling it reserve management, but the analysis we're looking at basically says, let's call a spade a spade. This is a form of money printing.
And just so we're all on the same page, what even is quantitative easing, or QE? Well, think of it like this. It's when the central bank basically fires up the money printers to buy things like bonds. The whole point is to flood the financial system with cash and get the economy moving. And this analysis says that's exactly what's happening again right now, just quietly.
I just love this term from macro strategist Lynn Alden, the gradual print. It just captures the idea so perfectly, doesn't it? This isn't some big one-time stimulus event. Nope. It's more like a slow, steady drip of new cash being pumped into the system, month after month after month. And don't let that word gradual fool you. In practice, we're talking about $40 to $80 billion of new liquidity being added to the system every single month. That is a staggering amount of new cash that has to find a home somewhere. So with all that new money sloshing around, the million-dollar question is, what does that mean for an asset like Bitcoin? Well, according to this analysis, the connection isn't just direct, it could be absolutely explosive. This is such an interesting comparison they make. The analysis suggests that how a lot of Bitcoin investors feel right now, kind of beat up, uncomfortable, questioning everything, is almost a perfect mirror of how gold investors felt right before gold went on an absolutely massive run. The idea here is that this moment of maximum doubt is often the exact turning point. And this leads us to the core prediction from investor Lawrence Lillard. His argument is that when all this new liquidity finally starts looking for a scarce asset to pour into, like Bitcoin, it's not going to be a slow and steady climb. No, he says it's going to scream, potentially doubling or even tripling, and fast. But hold on, it's not all hopium. The analysis is really quick to point out that right now, in the very short term, the technical charts for Bitcoin actually look kind of weak. And this creates this fascinating tension, right? You've got this super bullish long-term story based on the fundamentals of money printing versus a bearish short-term picture based on the charts. Okay, so let's zoom out from Bitcoin for a minute and look at the wider crypto world, because there are some really, really important things happening with other coins too. And we'll start with what is a huge regulatory win for Ripple over in the UK. And let me be clear, this is a very big deal. Getting the official stamp of approval from a major financial hub like the United Kingdom is just a massive step forward. It's not just about looking legitimate, this is a license to operate and grow in one of the world's most critical financial markets. And this didn't just happen by accident. Ripple went through the whole official process. They put in the application, they worked with the regulators, and boom, they got the green light. Now they have full market access to work directly with UK financial institutions, which, as you know, is the core of their entire business model. Now, for something completely different. This next part feels like it's been ripped right out of a science fiction novel. It's all about the looming threat of quantum computing and how some crypto projects are already racing to build a defense against it. So here's the problem in a nutshell. An SEC task force is actually warning that within just a few years, by 2028, quantum computers might become powerful enough to crack the encryption that keeps blockchains like Bitcoin secure. I mean, that's not just a small problem. That's an existential threat to the entire space. So, what do you do about it? This slide really lays it out perfectly. It's a classic problem and solution story.
On one side, you have this massive future threat looming, and on the other, you have projects like Algorand who are already on the case, proactively building what's called quantum-resistant technology to basically future-proof their networks.
So, what does quantum secure actually mean in this context? Well, it's all about one thing: protecting the history of the blockchain. It means creating a system so unbelievably strong that not even a super powerful quantum computer from the future could go back and mess with past transactions. It's about making the ledger truly unchangeable forever. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, from Fed policy and Bitcoin price predictions to some really big news for altcoins. So let's just take a step back and tie all these different threads together to see the bigger picture.
So it really all boils down to these three key points. One, the Fed is back in the business of printing money, even if they're doing it quietly. Two, the theory is that all this new money will eventually find its way into Bitcoin and spark a huge price rally. And three, while everyone's watching Bitcoin, really important stuff is happening in the altcoin world, both with regulation and with future-proofing technology. And all of this brings us back to that final huge question, the one that really matters. Are all these different forces we've talked about just creating a slow, gradual shift in the market? Or are we looking at the ingredients for a perfect financial storm? Based on this analysis, that's a question every single person in the space should be thinking about.